Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. So glad you're here today. If you're a regular listener, you know that a big part of what I talk about on this podcast lives inside the world of our OxFit Moms program. And today's episode is very much in that lane. If you're newer here and you found this episode because you're pregnant or someone you love is, or you're just trying to figure out how fitness and motherhood can actually coexist, then you are in the right place. And I'm really glad you're listening. OxFit Moms is a coaching program built specifically for women navigating the fitness side of motherhood. And I mean that in the broadest sense. We're talking about the pregnant athlete trying to figure out how to keep training without doing harm, the new mom who feels completely disconnected from her body and doesn't know where to start, and the mom who has been at this for a few years and is ready to push again, but wants to do it right. OxFit Moms meets women where they are in that journey, not with a one-size-fits-all class, but with intentional, educated, individualized coaching that actually accounts for what a woman's body has been through and what it needs next. And it is one of my absolute favorite things that we do. And coaching women through pregnancy specifically, that is just a season I genuinely love. And more on that in just a couple minutes. But first, I want to tell you about a mom that I have had the privilege of coaching recently. So she had been training consistently at OxFit for several years when she found out that she was pregnant. And fitness wasn't just a habit for her, it was really a way of life, a part of her identity. She was a college soccer player, so fitness was really life for a long time and a huge part of her life. It was a part of her day that belonged to her, that cleared her head, that made her feel capable and strong and like herself. She had worked hard to build that, and she was really consistent with it. And when she found out that she was expecting, of course she had some concerns. And one of the first ones was, what does this mean for my training? So she came to me, and the first thing she said was, I don't want to stop. Please tell me how I can keep going and continue to work out. And I remember that moment, and I remember the doubts and hesitations that she had and the fear, because it captures something that doesn't really get talked about enough, because you're excited about this new chapter and this new season of life, of course, but there's also a lot of fear. And sometimes women hold on to that and don't share it because they feel a little shame. They don't know how to navigate it. They don't know who to talk to. And there's so much noise out there and pressure from family and friends, even various practitioners too, with different opinions around pregnancy and exercise. Be careful, slow down, don't overdo it. And while some of that is valid, what gets lost in all of it is the woman standing in front of you who knows what movement means to her and what it does for her, who understands that the gym isn't just about vanity or stubbornness. It's more than that. It's mental health. It's identity. It's how she shows up for everything else in her life. She didn't have to stop. So we trained together through all 3 trimesters, adjusting as her body changed, of course, honoring what each week called for. Some days she was lifting and feeling powerful. Some weeks the right workout was just a walk with her dog and some hip mobility work, some stretching, and some resting. And learning to call that a win was honestly part of her training too. There were moments of frustration, when she got caught up in watching what other people in the gym were doing, some of her buddies, and partners, training partners, that were really pushing it and still achieving, that next level fitness. And then there were also moments of genuine awe and pride at what her body was doing. But she stayed connected to her movement, to her community, to that part of herself that she was afraid of losing. And on the other side of that pregnancy, she wasn't just a mother, she was also smarter, more in tune, more resilient, a better overall athlete than she had ever been before. She knew her body in a completely different way. She had built something that no PR on a barbell could replicate. And now she has run a marathon, done lifting competitions, and Olympic distance triathlons, and has now 2 kids cheering her on, high-fiving her at the finish line. Some of you that may know me well were probably already guessing that mom is me. That is me. And that outcome, that is what I'm now coaching and supporting other moms to do. Achieving your goals, whether big or small, whether they're fitness, professional, or personal, they do not have to stop because you get pregnant. And honestly, that's why pregnancy is one of my favorite seasons to coach through. I know that might sound maybe a little unexpected because from the outside, coaching a pregnant athlete can look a little bit like a long list of things that maybe they can't do or they need to modify. Modifications, limitations, movements to retire, navigating all of that is real, and we're going to talk about it today. But what is also real and what makes this season so meaningful to be a part of as a coach is the depth of connection that happens when a woman has no choice but to slow down and really listen to her body. Pregnancy is a way of stripping away the ego-driven part of training, the part that personally I kind of always held on to being a college athlete. But pregnancy forces you to, slow down and not chase your old numbers. You can't just push through and ignore signals from your body. You have to be present. And getting to coach someone through that kind of intentional, humble, tuned in training, getting to be the voice that says, yes, you're doing this right. Your body is doing something incredible, and we're going to keep you really strong for it. That is some of the most rewarding work that I do. And there's a lot of fear and a lot of confusion in this space. Women either stop completely because they're scared of doing something wrong, or they keep doing exactly what they've been doing because nobody gave them the information they needed to train smarter. And both of these paths leave something on the table. So today, I want to give you something better than that. Whether you are pregnant right now or you have a friend, a sister, a training partner who's expecting and trying to figure this out, this episode is a trimester by trimester breakdown of how training should evolve through pregnancy, what your body is actually doing, how that connects to how you're feeling, what to pull back on and why, and what to absolutely keep building, because there's so much that you should still be building. And this is the roadmap I wish every pregnant athlete had from day one, and now you do. If it resonates for you or for your person, come check out the OxFit Moms program and our personal coaching. This is exactly what we do. We'll meet you wherever you are in this season and coach you through it with the care and the education that it deserves. All right, let's get into it. So, first trimester. From the outside, you look pretty much exactly like yourself still. Your training partners have no idea though. Your clothes still fit, but on the inside, your body just hit the biggest hormonal shift of your life, and it happened almost overnight. Let's talk about what's actually going on biologically for a minute. And I'm going to keep this grounded and real, like no med school jargon required. The moment you conceive, your body starts flooding with a hormone called HCG. And this is the hormone that makes that pregnancy test positive, gives you the double lines. And it's surging in that first trimester. It's also widely believed to be a major driver of nausea and fatigue. At the same time, your progesterone levels are also climbing dramatically. Progesterone's like the hormone of preservation. It's keeping your uterine lining thick and supportive, but also making you feel like you ran a marathon and then got hit by a bus. Your blood volume starts increasing almost immediately. By the end of pregnancy, it will have increased by up to 50%. Your heart is already working harder. Your resting heart rate starts to climb. And here's one that surprises a lot of athletes. A hormone called relaxin. This hormone actually is already being released in this first trimester, and it's doing what it sounds like. It's loosening your ligaments and joints to prepare your pelvis for birth. That means your joints are genuinely more lax, more mobile, and more vulnerable to instability than they were before you got pregnant. So let's match that science to how you're probably actually feeling. You're exhausted, right? In a way that feels embarrassing almost. Like I used to squat 185 pounds and now I need a nap just after grocery shopping. That kind of exhaustion. You might be nauseous, maybe all day, maybe just in the mornings. maybe triggered sometimes by the smell of something weird like chicken or even your pre-workout that you used to love. You might have a sore, heavy chest that makes even a sports bra feel like torture. You might feel dizzy or lightheaded, especially when you transition from lying down or sitting to standing. And mentally, you might be feeling anxious, right? Emotional, or just foggy. And now, what does all of this mean for training? First, let's address the big fear a lot of athletes have in the first trimester, which is miscarriage. I've had a couple myself, and so I understand the fear, and not enough people talk about it. So that's why I'm mentioning it. But I want to be really careful here because this is deeply personal territory, and I'm not a medical professional. So definitely always work with your OB or your midwife. But what the research does consistently show is that exercise in a healthy pregnancy does not increase miscarriage risk. Brianna Battles, the founder of a pregnancy and postpartum athleticism class and certification that has given me a lot of my knowledge, has talked about this extensively. This fear that moving your body will somehow cause harm is largely unfounded for healthy pregnancies with no complications. So fear should not be your reason for stopping. That said, there are things, though, that are worth modifying even in the first trimester, right? Things to just be mindful of. Because of relaxing and loosening your joints, be thoughtful about especially single leg stability work and heavy loading through unstable positions. And this does not mean stop lifting. It's actually recommended to continue lifting, but it means pay more attention to your form. Slow down the eccentric work and maybe back off the absolute max lifts. We don't need to be doing 1 rep maxes. Start dialing in your breath. This is one I want to shout out from the rooftops because almost no one talks about it early enough. The way you breathe and brace during exercise has a huge impact on your pelvic floor and your intra-abdominal pressure, meaning the pressure inside your core and your pelvis. Dr. Kayla Potts at Sage Physical Therapy helped me personally with dialing in my breath work and learning to manage intra-abdominal pressure. And she does this with a lot of our athletes here in the OxFit Moms program. And this is honestly one of the most important skills you can develop as a pregnant athlete. You want to learn how to exhale on exertion and breathe into your belly and not clenching everything down. So start reducing that breath holding and bracing. That's the technique where you brace and hold your breath hard to lift maximum weight. It's really useful for elite competitive athletes and for peak strength, but not while you're pregnant because it spikes intra-abdominal pressure significantly, and that pressure has to go somewhere. And in pregnancy, it often goes down into the pelvic floor. Over time, repeatedly doing this can contribute to pelvic floor dysfunction, prolapse risk, and leaking. So starting to practice pressurized breathing helps early on. All right, here are things to keep doing and to even lean into in the first trimester. So keep lifting, keep moving, keep your strength training going. The research on resistance training in pregnancy is overwhelmingly positive. It supports your lower back, it reduces gestational diabetes risk, it supports better labor outcomes, and it helps maintain the muscle mass that you'll want for postpartum recovery. Brianna Battle says it beautifully. The goal in pregnancy is not to maintain fitness in the traditional sense. It's to stay strong, connected, and prepared for birth. Keep your cardio base, walking, cycling, swimming, rowing, running, if you already have been running a lot. All of this is completely appropriate and beneficial. And that old rule of keep your heart rate under 140 has largely been retired by modern sports medicine. A better guide is really this talk test. So you should be able to carry on a conversation if you're running with a friend. If you're gasping and really struggling to get air and pushing it really hard, then we need to dial it back a little bit. Start building a mobility and hip opening practice. Work on your flexibility during this time. Your hips are going to need to move in ways that they have never before. So focus on movements like cat-cow, deep hip flexor stretches, gentle thoracic rotation in deep lunges. These are going to be your friends in that first trimester. And then emotionally, give yourself permission to have bad training days already in that first trimester. Fatigue is real. It is not weakness. It is your body orchestrating a physiological miracle. And some days, a 20-minute walk is the workout. That counts, absolutely counts. Okay, second trimester. So this is weeks like 14 to 27. For many athletes, this is the sweet spot. The nausea often lifts, the exhaustion backs off, at least a little, and you might actually feel like yourself again for a little while, maybe even better in some ways. There's this phenomenon some people call this second trimester surge, where energy comes back and you can suddenly do all the things again. I want to encourage you to use this energy wisely, not to push back to your pre-pregnancy training volume and intensity like nothing happened, but to invest in the work that will matter most for the months ahead. So what's happening in your body in the second trimester? So a lot. Your uterus has risen out of your pelvis and is now growing up into your abdominal cavity. This is significant. Your center of gravity is shifting. Your linea alba, the connective tissue that runs vertically down the middle of your abdomen, is beginning to stretch and thin. This is the tissue involved in what's called diastasis recti, or the separation of the rectus abdominis, the six-pack muscles. Some degree of separation is normal and really necessary in pregnancy. Your abdomen has to make room. But how you train during this time can influence the degree of that separation and how well you recover from it postpartum. Your pelvic floor is under increasing load now. Think of it like a hammock at the base of your pelvis. And you've now placed a progressively heavier weight in the center of that hammock. It's working harder every week. The ligaments around your pelvis, particularly the round ligaments, are stretching. You might feel sharp shooting pains on the sides of your lower abdomen, especially when you stand up quickly or sneeze. That's round ligament pain, and it's totally normal, though it's really uncomfortable. Your balance is even changing faster than you think. The visual shift in your belly doesn't always match how quickly your proprioception, the body's sense of where it is in space, is being thrown off. Athletes who are used to trusting their body are sometimes totally caught off guard by this. So what you might be feeling, actually some more energy, yay. I remember feeling pretty great again in both my second trimesters with my kids. But also the physical bulk of growing a belly starts to affect movement for sure. Back pain starts to become a theme for many women around this time, particularly in the low back and SI joint, where the pelvis meets the spine. Heartburn might show up. You might notice that certain core exercises feel wrong, like there's doming or coning around the center of your belly when you do them, and that's your body's signal to modify. What to start modifying or retiring in this second trimester? So this is when we need to have the supine exercise conversation. And this is the laying flat on your back for extended periods. It's something most practitioners recommend limiting after around 20 weeks, because the weight of your uterus can start to compress the vena cava, the large vein that returns blood to your heart. This can cause some dizziness, nausea, and reduce blood flow to the baby, but really nothing major to worry about if you're limiting the time on your back. For short periods, it's generally fine. For long sustained exercises, it's good to just consider finding modifications. So for example, in the second trimester, when that belly starts growing a little bit more, I recommend that athletes start doing an incline bench press, some seated movements, or even side lying movements like side plank holds. There are alternatives for everything. So watch for that coning and doming during core work. And if you do a crunch or a sit-up, toes to bar, a hanging knee raise, and you see or feel a little ridge or a dome down the center of your belly, that's a signal to stop that movement. It means the intra-abdominal pressure is exceeding the capacity of your connective tissue, and it time to start modifying. So start doing gentler abdominal exercises like banded pal-off presses. You can do bird dogs on your hands and knees in a tabletop position, or dumbbell pull-throughs from your knees. This is where it can be obviously especially helpful to work with a coach if these, don't mean anything to you. Someone like myself, through the OxFit Moms program, can help you properly modify movements. So high impact, high bounce activities, think like box jumps, double unders, like aggressive plyometric type movements. These also really deserve scrutiny in the second trimester. Not like a blanket ban, but an honest conversation with your body. And pelvic floor PTs consistently note that leaking and incontinence during jumping or running is common in pregnancy, but it's definitely not something to just accept and push through. If you're starting to feel that extra pressure, then let's stop the box jumps, the double unders. There are plenty of modifications that we can do. Leaking is your pelvic floor telling you that the load's too high, right? So swap double unders for single unders, or get on a rower, get on a bike. We can do some dumbbell marches and swap those box jumps for some step ups. And if they feel too easy, grab a dumbbell. This is not giving up. This is just being an intelligent athlete. You're still getting stronger and you're still preparing your body for birth. What to keep and build in the second trimester. So glute work, glute work, glute work. Your glutes are the primary stabilizers of your pelvis and your hips, and they're working overtime during pregnancy. Goblet squats, wall sits, hip thrusts, lateral banded walks, deadlifts with moderate weight. Keep these in heavy rotation. Strong glutes mean a more supported pelvis, less back pain, and a better foundation for postpartum return to fitness and sport. Also, upper body strength, keep it. We want to be doing rows, ring rows, banded rows, lat pull downs, farmer carries, overhead pressing as much as it feels comfortable, bicep work. You're about to carry a baby, a car seat, a diaper bag, and a stroller simultaneously. So build the strength now. And then breathing drills and pelvic floor connection. Seriously, if you are not seeing a pelvic floor therapist, please consider it. There are plenty of licensed physical therapists who specialize in the muscles and structures of the pelvic floor, and or too weak. And yes, too tight is a real issue and very, very common in athletes. And they'll give you a personalized, approach and guidance that no podcast can replicate. Again, Dr. Kayla Potts, my pelvic floor therapist at Sage Physical Therapy, was one of the single most important resources for me as a pregnant and postpartum athlete, beyond, of course, my team of OxFit Mom coaches. All right, we are headed into trimester 3, the final stretch. This is weeks 28 through 40. The final stretch, literally. This is the phase where your athletic ego is really going to be tested the most, because your body is doing the most and your performance metrics are going to look the least impressive, and that's okay. It's tough to accept, though. You're going to feel slow. You're going to feel heavier. You're going to feel breathless and tired. You're going to have to modify things you modified already, again. And I need you to hear this before we go any further. This season is not a setback. This is the most important training block of your athletic career. You are getting ready to bring a baby into the world. What's happening in your body is extraordinary. Your uterus has grown from the size of a pear to the size of a watermelon. Your diaphragm has been pushed upward, which is why you get breathless tying your shoes. And your organs are literally displaced. Your blood volume is near its peak. Your body is manufacturing a placenta, a baby, and increasing amniotic fluid simultaneously. It's a miracle. You're pumping 40 to 50% more blood per minute than it was before you were pregnant. It's wild what women's bodies can do. and the biology behind this. So the hormone relaxin now is at its peak levels. Your pelvis is loosening in preparation for birth. Your baby's engaging lower in your pelvis in those final few weeks and increasing direct pressure on your pelvic floor. Braxton Hicks contractions begin. These are the practice contractions that your uterus is running as a dress rehearsal. And you may experience swelling in your hand, your feet, your ankles, fluid retention, all sorts of fun stuff. So what you're probably feeling, right, is heaviness. You're starting to feel slower, like you're breathing through a straw when you do anything remotely intense. Maybe some pelvic pressure or pain, disrupted sleep, restlessness. All of this can also affect your recovery and your sleep quality. You might even be experiencing some anxiety as your due date approaches. And also, if you're still training, probably an enormous sense of pride because you're still showing up. So what do you modify or step back from in this final stretch? Running may need to stop entirely. And this is highly individual, but I always stopped running in the second trimester, maybe even sooner, because the pressure on my pelvis just didn't feel good for me. So I switched to the bike or the rower. There's plenty of other cardio machines and options for you to do. But some athletes don't feel any discomfort, and that's fine. It's a personal choice. Listen to your body and to your pelvic floor PT. Single leg exercises may also become painful due to pelvic girdle pain. So just modify to bilateral movements or reduce the range of motion. So what I mean by that is instead of doing like lunges, we can do goblet squats or wall sits, something where we're using both legs at the same time and balancing out that resistance. Heavy loading in general should be dialed back, not eliminated, but the goal is to no longer really push to your maxes. Like we shouldn't even be close, really. You're maintaining movement quality, patterning, and enough stimulus to stay strong without overstressing joints and pelvic structures. Any exercise that causes pelvic pressure or leaking, pain, or a feeling of heaviness or falling out in the pelvis should be stopped immediately. And that is your body clearly communicating to you. So what to keep and what to prioritize in that final stretch in the third trimester. So keep moving for sure. Walking is one of the most valuable things you can do in the third trimester. It keeps blood flowing, supports baby positioning, manages stress, and keeps your body functional. A 30-minute walk counts as training, definitely. Pelvic floor awareness exercises, and this isn't just Kegels. This is, a pelvic floor that's too tight won't open well for labor. So you really need a pelvic floor that can both contract for support, but then also release and lengthen for delivery. Your pelvic floor PT will guide you through this, but practices like diaphragmatic breathing, deep squatting, and hip opening work all support the pelvic floor's ability to lengthen and release, which is exactly what you want going into labor. So deep squatting, specifically a low, comfortable, supported squat held for time and a short period of time is one of the best things that you can do in the third trimester. It encourages optimal baby positioning, opens the pelvic outlet, and stretches the pelvic floor in a functional way. So squat holds, holding a support, like if you're in our gym, the rig or the pull-up bars, right, that's accessible to anyone. You can hold onto a chair or, a desk and just get into a deep squat for 10 to 20 seconds. While you're doing that, we also need to be focusing on breath practice. This is where it all comes together. The breathing technique that will help you manage those contractions, avoid panicking, and work with your body during labor is the same breathing that you've been practicing in the gym. Diaphragmatic breathing in, slow controlled exhale, softening on the exhale rather than that bearing down. Your body knows how to do this. So just trust the breathing that you've been doing while you've been moving. Upper body and postural work also needs to be focused on. So rows, bent over rows, face pulls, banded pull aparts. Your posture is being challenged by the weight at the front of your body. So keep your back strong. It will matter enormously especially if you're nursing a baby for hours a day. And then mindset work. This is the time to really get comfortable with slowness, with modified workouts, with metrics that look different. Brianna Battles talks about this concept of understanding that slower seasons are still seasons of training. They are not interruptions to your athletic identity. They're really part of it. A great endurance athlete doesn't judge a recovery ride by the same standards as a race day. Extend yourself that same kind of grace throughout your pregnancy. Okay, so let's bring this home. If there's one message I want you to carry away from today, it's this. Your identity as an athlete is not at risk. It is expanding. The woman who figures out how to train intelligently, humbly, and intentionally through 3 trimesters of pregnancy, she's becoming a better athlete. Not despite motherhood, because of it. She's learning to listen to her body in ways she never had to before. She's learning that consistency does not require intensity, that showing up in a season of constraints is one of the most powerful things that an athlete can do. You are not on pause. You are in training. And here's what's on the other side, a postpartum return to fitness journey that starts from a foundation of strength, pelvic floor health, and body awareness, rather than starting from zero. I also want to acknowledge something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and that's the identity shift that happens after baby arrives. Because it's not just your body that changes. You are navigating a new version of yourself, a new dynamic in your relationship, friendships that may look different now, a social life that has completely rearranged itself, and a body that looks and feels unfamiliar in ways nobody fully prepared you for. That's a lot to hold. And for the woman who has always anchored part of her identity in her fitness, walking back into a gym postpartum can feel equal parts exciting and terrifying. Like you're meeting someone new and trying to remember someone old at the same time. I want you to know that disorientation is normal. It's not a sign that you've lost yourself. It is a sign that you're in the middle of becoming someone more layered, more complex, and more powerful than ever before. The fitness will come back. The strength will come back. And in the OxFit Moms community, you won't be navigating any of this alone. The athletes who work with coaches like myself, who see a pelvic floor PT like Sage Physical Therapy, both prenatally and postpartum, who give themselves grace in the slow seasons, they come back. They come back strong. They come back smarter. And many of them will tell you they become actually their best athletic selves on the other side of motherhood, not in spite of it. The baby you're growing one day will watch you train. They will learn what it means to take care of your body, to compete, to fall down and get back up, to love the process from you. You are already showing them. So keep going. Stay curious. Find a coach like myself who's educated and understands how to navigate this season. Find your pelvic floor PT like Kayla at Sage Physical Therapy. Find your mom's fitness community like the one we have at OxFit Moms to motivate you to show up. This is not the end of your athletic story. This is one of the best chapters. Thanks for listening. Until next time.